Well, all right, here we are. It is Tuesday evening. It's 7 o'clock, and it is I, Gordon FIremark, entertainment attorney, and I'm here with Asked and Answered Live, and I'm going to be answering some of your questions. So we're going to just sort of vamp for a moment or two while I wait for folks to come in and join the call. And it looks like something went wrong with at least some of the destinations for this one, so I'm going to just quickly see what's going on with Facebook and YouTube really quickly, because something ain't working. So let me just see if I can figure out what's happening there. Okay, looks like I'm live there, and also studio. Well, now let's just see. Are we live on YouTube? Well, we are indeed. Okay, so let's see. I got a couple people watching. Thank you for being here. If you've got a question you'd like to submit, drop it into the comments, the chat, whatever you've got in front of you, and let me know what your question is, and we'll go from there. Meanwhile, I'm still tinkering with LinkedIn, which for some reason isn't connecting. So, all right, we'll just do without LinkedIn tonight. Welcome to the call. Welcome to the show. I am answering I've got a couple of questions here from folks that have sent things in to me, and then if necessary, well, I hope that there are those among you who have questions that you can ask me live. So let's just get to the first question that I have in my queue here. It is from someone named Dave. He says, I'm a creator of a TV show with a courtroom theme. I wrote a pilot script, produced the pilot episode, and also created a deck and a sizzle reel. A reputable production house is wanting to take on the concept and develop it and then pitch it. The production house has stated that it will introduce me to their house script team, who will create and format a series based on my storylines that they will then shoot a pilot and pitch. Now, I thought he already said he had shot a pilot. So maybe they didn't think it was up to snuff. Anyway, who would own the new development material in the event that this goes nowhere and there's no green light? They are looking to send me some paperwork shortly. So this question came in to me by email, and I did respond by email. This person is in the UK. They themselves are, or their wife is a lawyer, but not in this particular field. They've been, circling the legal community about this a bit. And what I did learn is what I told him is the answer to the question. New development material would typically belong to the production house, the production company. But ultimately, it depends on what the contract between the parties says. And you don't have to agree to terms that you're not comfortable with. So, look, typically the company that acquires an option on the material would then have the right to develop stuff based on that material and the right to own that developmental stuff. If they then don't exercise the option and the project does not move forward, then they own what they created during that option period, the development window, and Dave would continue to own the material that he started with. So nothing there. But this sounds like it might be that they're looking for what we would characterize as a shopping deal, hopefully, and not a shoption, which is a hybrid of those two, but a shopping deal where they're not actually acquiring any rights other than, sort of permission to create these developmental materials that they would still want to retain ownership of. So the result is really sort of the same. But ultimately, in either of those scenarios, they wouldn't be able to do anything with the developed material without also acquiring rights. The underlying rights is what we call them, from our question, or from the Dave. So, that's sort of how it goes. One thing I will say is, you do have to be careful because ideas aren't something that can be protected by copyright law. So what you got to do is make sure that the contract sets up the protections to make sure that they can't use the ideas either without involving Dave. Bottom line, you need an experienced entertainment lawyer who kind of knows how to look at this and can get underneath the hood and figure out exactly what's going on. Unfortunately, in contracts like this, the right hand giveth and the left hand taketh away. And so we need to be very vigilant about these kinds of things. It has happened that someone, sort of slurps up the ideas and says, yeah, but we're going to do it our way, so we don't really need you anymore. Have a nice day. And we don't want to get into that scenario. So that's the situation. Hey, listen, if you have a question for me on the show, I'd love it if you would drop it in the chat and let me know. I'm going to keep going with another question that came in through my email system earlier this week. And here we go. Let's see. Okay, so this one is a question that's saying, look, I'm basing my story on a company that I used to work for and people who worked there. Is it okay for me in the show to name that company and identify it by name, even though, because it's a well-known company to the audience for the kind of material that this company does business with? So what it is, it's like the crazy tales from the customer service desk or something like that. And so it would be maybe more amusing, more interesting to know whose customer service desk is it that's getting all these wacky calls and these wacky scenarios. So it's sort of a sitcom-y vibe, similar to The Office or something like that. Anyway, so the question is, can I name the company even though the story is a work of fiction? It's not going to be actually based on the actual things going on with the company. My answer to this is it may not be strictly illegal to mention the company, but I think it's dangerous. It's probably not a great idea to mention a real company in this fictional situation, because even if you're not saying anything negative directly about the company, in some way that's presenting them in a way that suggests some kind of a connection or reality behind that storytelling, well, it could still expose you to some, claims of brand dilution or tarnishment of their trademarks or something like that, or just casting the company in a false light or something like that. Now, false light is a privacy tort that's usually personal to people, but characterizing a company in a way that misrepresents them somehow could be troublesome. So I think it's better to fictionalize. But that doesn't mean you can't say in the opening of the show, this program is based on real companies and real people and situations, and the names have been changed to protect the ridiculous or something like that. So it is possible to still let the audience know, hey, these crazinesses actually come from reality, but we're embellishing, we're building on that. And let's face it, I think most of these kinds of sitcoms and TV shows, they do have a foot in the reality of life. And the writers are always inspired by real things that have happened, and they just take it and expand and embellish and what's the other word I'm looking for? Push things up from the ridiculous to the sublime, I guess you could say. So another thing to think about is defamation. You worry about saying something that is false, that casts the company in a negative light, that hurts its reputation. Yes, companies can be defamed, if you cause harm to the company's reputation or standing in the community, you could have an action for defamation. We've seen that with voting machine companies suing people and other companies for publishing false information following the 2020 election, things like that. So defamation can be a big deal between companies. So it is something to be thoughtful about. And here's the issue. It may not be enough just to change the name if the show depicts enough about the company that we can still identify who we're talking about. So in defamation law, we have to have a false statement of or concerning the plaintiff. And that's what we're going to get into here. That causes harm to reputation and damages and therefore, and so Actually had this question brought to my attention earlier today. Is a public company, a well-known public company, treated as a public figure under defamation law? And I don't know the exact answer off the top of my head. My suspicion is not, unless it's really a very, very big public, but merely being a publicly traded company or a company that serves the public doesn't necessarily make it a public figure in the way that defamation law works. I'm going to have to check into that. But of and concerning the plaintiff. So if you have a show that is talking about this fictionalized company that is, where all these shenanigans are going on, if people watching would be able to identify, oh, that must be XYZ company, and then you do have some kind of a false statement that causes harm to reputation, XYZ company might have a claim. So it's important to be really, really careful about these kinds of things. And so those are the kinds of things you want to. So change the names to protect the innocent as well as to protect the guilty, and be cautious in these kinds of things. So, is anybody watching have any questions? Drop them in the comments or the chat. I'd love to know what's on your mind. And I'm going to just double check on LinkedIn one more time, because I know that if people are typing in the chat in LinkedIn, it doesn't come into my my system the same way comments from other places do. Let's go find me and my presence here on LinkedIn. Let's see. Entertainment Law Asked and Answered Live AMA. Yeah, LinkedIn still says it's coming soon, but it didn't start automatically the way it's supposed to. So something's not right over at LinkedIn. I'll have to tinker with that later. No questions coming in the comment box. So that's a shame. Let me give you a little calendar update of what's going on with me. I just got back from Podcast Movement, the national convention of podcasters and podcast industry folks in Washington, D.C. It was a lot of fun. A good week last week. I think you saw me do A&A from my hotel room there last week. But, a very upbeat group and a lot of fun hanging out with friends and meeting new people and connecting with colleagues and adversaries alike. And a shout out to a few of my clients that were there, Kira and now I'm blanking on the other clients that were there. There are a handful of them anyway. So shout out to you folks that were there. Good to see you. And I learned a lot. I digested some of it in an episode that will be coming out later this week for Legit Podcast Pro. If you stick with me on the YouTube channel, you'll see it, or listen to the Legit Podcast Pro podcast. That's a great way to pick that up. Just a few little takeaways from the conference, nothing more than that. Yesterday, I put up a blog post about the new FTC rules relating to endorsements and reviews and ratings. It is now, and it always really has been, but they're being very clear now that it is unlawful to purchase or sell fake reviews. That is, people who haven't actually reviewed and checked out the material, or endorsements and so on. So we need to be even more vigilant about that. And I think what that means is for all of those, and I know we all get them, all of those podcasters who get proposals from in their DMs from professional podcast promoters. Don't do it. Don't pay these people to get you extra downloads, extra reviews. Those numbers are fake. And if you participate in that, you may very well be perpetrating a fraud on the American people. Oh, I should say on the audience, the people generally, and also perhaps on your sponsors and advertisers. You're faking your numbers. You're doing something that's shady at best. So just stay away from that kind of thing. What else is going on? Tomorrow morning, I'll be recording Entertainment Law Update, episode 171, representing more than 15 years of that podcast being around. We've done that every month, Tamara and I, with a handful of exceptions, since 2009. and mid 2009. So looking forward to an interesting one. We got a lot to talk about in the AI arena. And we're devoting probably more than half the episode. We'll be covering the various AI stories. And so once I sign off from here tonight and figure out what's going on with LinkedIn, that's my next project, is prepping for that show. And I guess that's all I've got. So if there's nobody with questions right now, I'm going to say thanks for watching. Thank you for being with me for this episode of Asked and Answered Live. And I will be back next Tuesday evening to do it all again. So get your questions in. You can go over to firemark.com/questions and submit yours. And I'll look forward to seeing you soon. Have a great night. You give me feelings.